Guys, and welcome to Unit 5, Lesson 22, Interpreting Visual Information. All right, so let's go ahead and start out with our lesson focus. Our title is To See or Not to See, Understanding Visual Information. All right, guys, our standard says to interpret information presented visually, orally, or quantitatively. In parentheses, it tells you what those quantities are, or some of that information that's presented is. For example, in charts, graphs, diagrams, timelines, animations, or interactive elements on web pages. So also being able to explain how the information contributes to an understanding of the text in which it appears. Here's your learning goal for today. I can explain how the information in a visual display enhances the reader's understanding of a text. That word enhances just means how does it add to it? How does it make your understanding of the text even better? So our essential question that we're going to be trying to answer throughout the lesson is, how does understanding visual information help me understand a text? Now, these are just a few vocabulary words that we're going to come in contact with. And as we come in contact with these words, we'll kind of talk about them and I'll explain them as we go along. So the first word, we have diagrams. The next word is quantitative, timelines, interpret, visuals, and graphs. I want you guys to take a minute and think about something. When we're talking about visual information, that's the information you can actually see. How does visual information actually help you? Think about that for a moment. Why don't you close your eyes and pretend that you can't see, that you're blind for a moment. Now, if that were the case and you did not have your sense of seeing, you would have to totally depend on all of your other senses to kind of navigate through the world. Probably not so easy of a thing to do. Now, look at your learning target. It says, by figuring out information that is shown in charts or other visuals, you'll gain a clearer understanding of a topic in an informational text. So what that really means is, while reading informational text, a lot of times when you see photos, diagrams, and timelines, those visuals, those things that you see, explain ideas about a topic that words alone cannot really help you understand as well. So you may see things like graphs with quantitative information or information in quantity and amount. And if you come across a special text feature, you got to really try to figure out its purpose. So when we talk about interpreting visual information, that means you're trying to figure it out. What is this visual information adding, or how is it adding to my understanding of the topic or the text? Now, I want you to look at the area in blue over here to the right. Look at the fish tank here. This is what we call a bar graph, but why do you think it's called a bar graph? Well, if you look at it for a second, logically, it's because some of the information on it is represented in the form of bars, right? You see a bar with labeled Angel, one labeled Daniel, and one labeled Tetra. Now, this is what we call an informational text. These type of texts often include visuals like this to help make information a little bit more clear for you. Now, diagrams show how things work or what parts they have. An example of a diagram is at the top of the page. See that bird there? So this is a diagram. It'll have labels and it'll kind of break down parts to you or kind of explain what those parts are. When we're talking timelines, if you look at the bottom of the page in white, it says timeline of World War I. A timeline shows a sequence of events that happened during a time period. But what we're dealing with today, or what we're going to be focused on, is a bar graph. Graphs kind of show and explain data. But all of these visuals actually add to your understanding of a topic in different ways. So let's look at this. Let's look at all of the information, all of the visual information first, okay? We have fish in a fish tank. Over to the side, you have number of fish. It has 10, 8, 6, 4, 2, and a 0. We already looked at the bars. Angel, it looks like there are, since the angel bar stops at 2, there are 2 angel fish. Daniel, it looks like we have 8 because the bar stops at the line connected to the number 8. Then we have tetra, which stops at the line connected with the number 6. So there are 6 tetra. And then at the bottom, it just says type of fish. Now, let's read the text here and see what understanding we get from the text that may be a little bit different from what we got from the visual. It says, a few months ago, I helped my science teacher set up a fish tank. The tank has 3 types of fish. We put in just 2 of the largest type of fish and many of the smaller types of fish. The tank is large enough to follow this rule. Each fish needs about 1 gallon of water to be healthy. Now, as you work with visual features in this lesson, you're going to notice that the language used in graphs and diagrams is a little bit different from what's used in a text. So look at that and think about it. If you notice, the language used on your actual graph is different. It's not in sentences like when you just pick up a book to read. They have numbers and labels on it. So that's how you are to interpret or understand the information. You have to learn to read it in a different way. It's not going to just be written out for you. Now, if you were asked to express the title of this graph as a full sentence, look at the title. It says fish in a fish tank. So if I asked you to represent that or express it in a full sentence, you could say, there or these are the numbers and types of fish that are in the fish tank. It's common to abbreviate labels, titles, and other text and visual elements to fit as much information as you possibly can in it. So by giving you a visual instead of actually writing all of the information out, you kind of get sometimes a better understanding of whatever information it is that you're reading about, whatever your topic is. All right, so charting. As always, we use our charts to organize our information. So we're going to complete this chart together, all right? If you look at the think section at the top of the page, it says, were you able to interpret, or in other words, figure out the information in the text and the graph? From the details, you should have a good idea of how many fish are in the tank and what kinds of fish live in it. Use the passage and the graph to fill in the chart below. All right, so let's jump right in. You look at the chart, you have 2 columns here. The left column says what the text says. Over here to the right, it says what the graph shows. Text says one thing, the graph shows us a little bit more different information. So already under the column that says what the text says, it says the tank has 3 types of fish. But here's what the graph shows us. Graph shows us a little bit more information, right? It actually points out the names of those 3 different types of fish. So the 3 types of fish in the tanks are angel, Daniel, and tetra. as you can see over here to the left, as represented. Now, what the text says is that we put just 2 of the largest type of fish, many of the smaller types of fish in that tank, right? We see that here. So let's look at this for a moment. It says we put in just 2 of the largest type of fish. Now, when we're thinking about what this says, the visual or the bar graph shows us that there are only 2 angelfish. So logically, if the text says we put in just 2 of the largest type of fish, and you look on the graph, and the only fish here, or the fish that only has 2 types, or I'm sorry, 2 as a quantity, are the angelfish. So we have to logically conclude that the angelfish are the largest type of fish. Now, we didn't get that just from reading the text. In this example, the visual enhanced our understanding of the text. It was like a helping aid for us. Now, here it says, read and answer the prompt on your own. Again, look at the talk section here. It says, compare the information in your charts. What inference can you draw about the minimum number of gallons the tank should hold? Use information from the text and the graph, and it wants you to draw a picture of the fish in the tank to help you answer. Well, let's do some math in reading class here. First of all, we have 2 types of angelfish, right? 2 types. But then we have 8 Danielfish. So far, 2 plus 8 gives us a sum or a quantity of 10. Then if you look at the tetra, we have 6. So if you add 10 to that 6, it should give you a total of 16 fish, right? Now, what the text gave us, it did give us some specific information about the 2 largest type of fish, which are our angelfish, because this is the only thing on the graph that has a quantity of 2. So if we were to draw this out, we of course would have to draw the angelfish as the larger types of fish, and we would have to draw the remaining fish a little bit smaller to show or represent exactly what the text said and exactly what the graph shows. Here, the text tells me 2 of the largest type, that they only put in 2 on the largest type in the fish tank. And again, on my bar graph, I only see 2 angelfish. So I would have drawn 2 larger fish, and then the other fish would be a little bit smaller to kind of draw out what the bar graph is kind of explaining for us here. Now, you guys will go into Already Reading, and you're going to complete your teacher assigned lesson, which is on the same standard, interpreting visual information. If you need to go back over the slide to kind of see how we put together information from the text and the visuals, then please do so. But go through your lesson slowly. Remember, your grades will be collected from iReady for 4th quarter. You'll have another live instructional lesson this week. But for now, I want you to just focus on the one lesson that matches this standard that I assigned to you in iReady Reading.